Very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. Cold, miserable, wet, but it's only June, so we've got plenty of time for the sunshine to come back, haven't we? Anyway, I hope you've all had a great weekend and looking forward to the week ahead. And it looks like for West Ham United, the week has started well because Luis Guilherme of Brazil has arrived in London. And medical, I believe, has probably already been done. If not, it definitely will be on Tuesday. The club are getting ready to unveil our latest signing. Apparently, all the paraphernalia that goes on with all our setup, when we sign a new player, is all being sorted out. So I dare say there's going to be a Brazilian theme to the signing. I mean, what else could it be? So it's good news. It looks like despite all the rumor, all the speculation, all the concern, etc., this young Brazilian hopeful is now a West Ham player. There's going to be an awful lot of talk as to whether it's the sort of player that we need, given that we need quite a big rebuild of the squad. I guess that speculation is going to go on, especially as the transfer window opens on the 14th, not too long now. And if we don't start bringing in players who we really need to hit the ground running, I guess there's going to be even more concern as to whether we should be spending this sort of money on a young, untried player. But he's a great hope. He's the sort of player that that West Ham United and Palmeiras believe will come good. And he's one for the future, but maybe one for the here and now as well, certainly as a backup. Look, welcome anyway. If you're new to the channel, if you do please hit that subscribe button. I know I keep saying it and then it sounds boring, but the more people do it, the better it is for me to get the channel sort of built up. So if you're not a subscriber yet, do please become a subscriber. And there's a like button down there somewhere. I don't know if any of the moderators are in tonight, but they'll probably prompt you to hit that like button as well. So apart from Guilherme, what we hear is that Tim Steidten hasn't flown back over with him. So we're not going to see the fantastic photos that we had last summer of Guilherme and Steidten on a plane. By the looks of things, Steidten is still in Brazil, wanting to tie up one or two more deals. And I'm going to come to those in a moment because there's quite a lot happening over there. And there's a latest news about one of the players that we are targeting as well. Apparently yet another club, Premier League club, is trying to steal a march. Always the same thing, isn't it? We're interested in the player. All of a sudden, someone else is trying to nick him from us. But I'll get to that in a moment because there's a hell of a lot of news to catch up on over the past week or so. So before I do that, let's jump into the chat and see who's there. I didn't do this the last couple of weeks because I had guests. No guests tonight. I was going to have one, but unfortunately, I ran out of time in getting it all sorted. So good evening, Sean. How are you? I hope you're well. Thank you, mate. Good evening to you, Epic. How are you? Hammer Time. I hope you're well. Unusual as well. Danny Boy, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Mr. Williams, how are you? I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time. That bloody weather better hold up, Paul. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit of a soaking down in Glynde. Is it Glynde? Mark, Debbie, hello, Mark. How are you? According to reports from the last hour, deal with Vitao has collapsed because Nottingham Forest have offered the player more money, supposedly joining them now. Not sure if I believe it, although that's the one I'm talking about, but I'll get back to that later on. NWO, how are you? I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Daniela. How are you? Let's all be positive. We're always positive. Mr. Lindsay, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. From sunny Alberta. It's getting more interesting by the day. Well, a deal's done and a transfer window has yet to open. I mean, come on. This is West Ham United, for goodness sake. We're normally acclimatized over the past few years to having deals done on the 11th hour on the last day of the transfer window. Imagine doing a transfer before the window opens. What on earth is going to happen next? Toha, 2118. Well, no, I did promise I'll be on time. I think I was on time today, but correct me if I'm wrong. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Infamy. How are you? I hope you're well too. Who else have we got? Mr. Spraggs. I hope you're well, mate. Thanks for the message, by the way. I will try. I don't know when I'm going to Cyprus again, but I will try and get you a badge or two, especially Paralimni, who I mentioned to you in our email, in our exchange, messenger exchange. Paralimni, who are affiliated in a kind of roundabout sort of way to West Ham. They wear the same colours. Good evening to you, Philip. I hope you're well. Excuse me. Evening, Stell. A quote that is often used but rarely materializes is taken us to the next level. I just wonder if this could really be our time to awake a sleeping giant. You know, what do we hope for? I remember maybe I should do a show and talk again about what we hope for. Maybe actually after we've got our squad together, signed all the players that we hopefully need to sign, and then maybe I'll talk about what everybody hopes for. But let's see. Look, hey, a change already. The fact that we're going for a 19-year-old Brazilian, untried Brazilian player, spending quite a bit of money on him. Well, shape of things to come, maybe. Good evening to you, Fred. How are you? And good evening to you, Ryan. I hope you're well. And good evening to you, Michael, as well. Aaron, I hope you're well. Hammerette, how are you? I hope you've had a good weekend. Nice for you to join. Bill, how are you, mate? That was good time. Evening to you as well. Garino, how are you? Guilherme, deal done. Medical passed according to some ITKs. Don't worry about them. Just listen to me, you know. But that is apparently what's happened. That the medical was passed today, and they're all getting ready for all that, you know, putting it on camera, you know, the video that's going to introduce him, etc. Could be unveiled, as I said, as early as if I don't get a spelling wrong, then it's not Stell, is it? Of course, that should be Tuesday, not Thursday, or Wednesday at the latest. £19 million the deal. I thought it was originally 30 million. I hadn't changed that actually. Should be a value at 25 million, not 30 million. The deal is 19 million plus around 6 million add-ons. There's a 20% sell-on clause, and the deal is meant to be 5 years with a potential additional 1 year on top of that. Apparently, West Ham United and Palmeiras are so confident. Excuse me. West Ham United and Palmeiras are so confident that this player will be worth more than double his money. Is that that's why they've added the 20% sell-on clause. So, you know, they wanted something like 30-40 million pounds originally for the player. We've got them convinced that 19 million plus 6 million add-ons is good enough, plus a 20% sell-on fee. So let's say he doubles in value in a couple of years' time. It could be worth 50 mil, you know, and Palmeiras, if we sell him, Palmeiras will get 20% of whatever he's worth in the future. Mark, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening to you, Ralph. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Who else have we got? Udowu, good evening to you. Nice to see. I'm always smiling, mate. You know me. Half glass full until that glass smashes. Glenn, how are you? I'm not hoping to tomorrow. I'm not hoping what till tomorrow, mate? About the deal being done, or explain. Garino. Oops, where has that gone? Doubt Forest will outbid us for Vitao, given exactly that. See, you're stealing a march on me. That's exactly why I'm not so sure that is. I believe that 100. I'm sure they're interested in him, but I'm not so sure they've got the money. But there is something that they might be doing in order to try and get the money. Rhonda and Tony, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Mr. Chelmsford, how are you? Has your cat got? Of course they have. They both look. Well, you know, one passed away. He's there. We're photo there. But the other two are sleeping next to me. Of course they've been chipped. Do you think the missus will let them run around without being chipped? Kent, that will happen today, didn't it? Apparently in new law. Good evening, Kent. How are you? Signal of intent. If the kid signs, think we will see 6 or 7 other signings as well. I think 6 or 7. I know we're all saying, you know, I'm going to get to the squad as well. I've got a squadometer I've created to see how many players we actually think we need. Good evening to you, Toe. I don't know if I said good evening, but if I haven't, good evening to you. Brownie, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. I don't know about being horny just because we've got a new signing, but happy maybe. Andrew, how are you? Garino, suggestion that another Brazilian may join later in the window, but will go out on loan immediately. Hodil is linked to another signing. Oh, I'm interested in that. I know Steidten has stayed out there, so clearly there's another signing on the offing. If it is another signing that could be going out on loan, it certainly won't be Vitao. So if you know anything, mate, message me and I'll look it up. What else we got? Hello, mate. Ian, how are you? I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Stan. Danny boy. Moyes would have vetoed this transfer. I'm excited at the direction the club is going. In Tim, we trust. I did say, I think I did a video on Saturday, and I did say that there's no way we could have done this sort of stuff under Moyes, with the greatest of respect. You know what I was like. I was kind of happy. You know, if Moyes stayed, I was happy for him to stay. If he's gone, farewell, thank you very much. But you're absolutely right. There's absolutely no way we would have done any deals like this over in Brazil. Steidten would have just been on holiday. There's no way he would have been signing anyone under Moyes. Steve, how are you, mate? From Rhodes. I hope you're well, Steve. I hope it's nice and warm over there. I heard over in Cyprus it's something like 35 degrees already, so it's probably not too dissimilar over there. Freedom Sounds, good evening to you. Thank you for joining. I hope you're well. Anthony, how are you, mate? Been reading reports Jota Silva has gone AWOL, not quite, to try and force a move to the massive Hammers. Apparently he's on holiday over here. You make of that what you will. James, how are you, mate? From the West Coast. Thank you for joining, mate. I hope you're well. Andrew, I wonder if we put names out like Vitao to put other clubs off the scent of who we're really after. Smoke and mirrors to still a march. That is possible. But to be quite honest with you, I do actually think we would be in for Vitao. He's decent. I'm going to come to him. I don't know if any of you watched any of the videos I did last week about all the players that we've been linked to. But I will cover Vitao again in a moment. No problem, Stephen. I will try, mate. I will try and get you some. But I don't know when I'm going back to Cyprus. It may not happen this year, but I'll keep it in mind. No problem. Fred, the impression from decent journos who are neutral seem to think we've pulled off a real master stroke with great potential. So I hope they're correct. Mate, you never know. These players may not, we may get a dud, knowing West Ham United. We probably have got that just one Brazilian who really can't play football. I'm not so sure that's going to happen, to be honest with you. Apparently he's been, I said this in the show I did last week. He's been overshadowed by the likes of Endrick, who also play for Palmeiras, who's going off to Real Madrid this summer. And he's been kind of like under the shadows of some of the other players that got big money moves abroad. I think we've probably got a decent player here. Let's not expect too much of him. He's not going to hit the ground running. I do not expect him to get a lot of games. Let me rephrase. I do not expect him to start many games, if any at all. I do expect to see him coming on, because Lopetegui is very different to the way David Moyes handles substitutions. We keep hearing Lopetegui likes to use the full plethora of all 5 subs, etc. So he's going to be in competition with other players. Lopetegui may decide that he needs a midfielder on or a less of attacking player, a defender on or whatever during a game. So there may be games that we may not see much of this young player, but we're going to have to be patient, aren't we, with Guilherme? Don't expect too much of him. I think he's going to be eased in slowly, but I hope fans don't get disappointed by that. We've got this tendency, haven't we? We certainly did it over the last couple of seasons when we bought a player and he hasn't started. Alvarez was one. Kudus, Moyes. He had him on the subs bench for a while. When's he going to play? When's he going to play? And this might be the same thing with Guilherme. I'm not expecting him I'm not expecting to see him the first game of the season, second, third, maybe even the fourth game of the season. He might be eased in. So I hope we're patient. Kenneth, good evening to you. The 6'8" goalkeeper from Corinthians could be going to Forest instead of us, apparently. Apparently so. I did a show about him last week. I'm not mentioning any goalkeepers today, to be quite honest with you, because apparently I can't remember his name. I got it written down somewhere, but there's him and there's Wes Foderingham from Sheffield United, and there was even someone else from QPR, the ex-Chelsea keeper. Apparently, we've been linked to quite a few different keepers at the moment. But let's see. Nottingham Forest, as someone has just mentioned, FFP, they can't go out, start buying and buying. They've got to sell. That there's clubs in the Premier League. Look at Aston Villa. They've got, a lot of clubs have got to balance their books by the end of June. In order to sort of be able to even contemplate starting to buy players. So I'm not holding up too much sort of focus on Nottingham Forest and going in for all these players. They seem to have a scatter. They seem to just go for anybody, don't they? They've got more players than they need, and they've got to sell before they start buying. So let's see what happens. Good evening to you, Tony. Manx aren't getting kudos. No way. I laughed at that, to be quite honest with you. There were two stories that I laughed at quite loudly, to be quite honest with you, that Newcastle were in for Bowen and Man United are in for Kudus. Both a load of bollocks, both coming from, is it Football Insider, that seems to be, with the greatest of respect, quite a lot of sort of sensationalist stories out there about some of our players leaving, and Newcastle getting Bowen, no way. Man United getting Kudus, no way. Look, this time next season, at the end of next season, next summer, things might be very, very different. But as it stands, there's no way Kudus is going to Man United. No way at all. Chris Green, good evening to you. I searched 19-year-old Brazilian on Google, and now I'm missing. Yes, we all have hope. I'm hoping for Vital Roque. Is that the one that Garino was mentioning? Garino, we will be wearing Brazil home kits at this rate. I don't mind. Quite nice, aren't they? Well, not home kits, but imagine having a Brazil kit as an away kit. Wouldn't that be nice? Sort of gold with claret. Yeah? I mean, it can't be much worse than what they do. Can it really? Bill, good evening to you. I hope you're well. I thought the deal was in euros, not pounds. It's 19 million pounds, 22 million euros, something like that. I could be wrong. Do correct me if I am wrong. I believe it's 19 million, but correct me if I'm wrong. Tony, good evening to you. Thought the international window opens on the 1st of July. It does. So I don't know how this works, to be quite honest with you, mate. But it seems maybe, he won't actually be officially announced until the 1st of July. I don't know. Our window opens on the 14th of June. The international window, you're absolutely correct, opens on the 1st of July. You tell me. If we announce him, maybe, actually, no, we can do. We can announce him to say he'll be joining West Ham United on the 1st of July. Can do that. It's the way around it, isn't it? So the actual contract may not start until the 1st of July, but we can announce him now. So maybe. So again, correct me if I'm wrong there as well. Matt, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I've seen that one, Garino. And I've also I did a show, didn't talk about Amordian, but I did talk about Juan Seco. Juan, he's got another surname as well. And I did a show last week about him, talking about Steidten and doing, sort of like looking at the Brazilian markets. I know he plays in Europe, Ludogorets in Bulgaria, is it? Interesting, but there's a lot about him that makes me think perhaps not. KPW, KP, how are you, mate? Good to get an early signing that isn't a freebie for a change. Well, Wes Foddering's coming, apparently, and he's a freebie. Well, I don't know. Maybe he is. Tony, hope we don't put too much pressure on Guilherme too early. He and Mubama need time and not 2 minutes at the end of games. Yes, I think Mubama will sign. I actually don't think Mubama will sign. I quite like him to sign. And if he does, I think he'll definitely be going out on loan next season. But I've got a gut feeling that Mubama may not sign. Lee, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Trodge. Irish Brazilian blend coffee. No, Wonder Kids. Andrew, would rather take the risk of this kind of signing than the safe and underwhelming signings of a Maguire or Phillips. I'm excited for the first time in a long while for the start of the new season. I am too. Now, let's be honest, the way we were last season in defence, I kind of wouldn't have minded Maguire, to be quite honest with you. But, we've moved on. We'll look at different players now, which I think is not a bad thing at all. Peter, can we get fined 500 notes if cats aren't chipped in about 3 weeks? Not sure what the fine is for dogs. Don't know, mate, because they're both chipped. They're both fast asleep. Garino, still, I'm just guessing, but Wesley Kosova and Rennan. Well, Wesley Kosova, I think that's a bit of a dead deal. Rennan, I've not heard of him. So someone that Sean mentioned, so you've just mentioned Rennan as well. So Kosova, I think that seems probably not going to happen. But Steidten, like I said, Steiden's out there, so he's still looking for players. Daniela, is it true Ben Johnson is now thinking of signing a contract? Yes, it is. Apparently, we're closer to getting Johnson signing a new deal than we are to Mabama. I don't mind Johnson. I quite like him. I think, played in his rightful position and not played all over the pitch. Just keep him at right side. He started his career as a right winger, right midfielder, and then moved to right back. Leave him there. Either use him on the right side or use him on right side of midfield or right side in defence, and let the boy grow in that position instead of being thrown all over the place. Infamy. That'll be my expression towards one of our fans or fan channels that bring up Moyes mid-season just to continue hating on him. Well, we can't. He's gone, isn't he? Right. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let's go into what else am I going to talk to you about? Let's scroll down. Right. I'm going to talk about season tickets just very briefly, because there's been quite a lot of talk about season tickets and so on and so forth. So as you probably know, the season tickets window closed early last week, and 91.5% take up, which equates to something like 4,000 season ticket holders not renewing. Now, okay, we heard an awful lot about, a lot of season ticket holders were saying, if Moyes stays, I'm not going to renew, etc., etc. Well, he's gone, and the take-up has not been as great. In fact, 91.5% is the lowest that it was just after COVID, when we started going back to football matches. Things like the cost of living certainly is a huge factor on fans being unable to renew. And I think also maybe the fact that West Ham United have got a new ruling in about concessions. Now, I'm sure you've been following this, and if you haven't, I think they've done wrong here, West Ham. Let's put it this way, because from now on, any new season ticket, if you're looking for a concession ticket for zones for areas categories 1 to 4, you won't get a concession within 1 to 4. They're all full price adult tickets. So if, for example, you got a son or daughter that you want to start taking to West Ham United, you can't buy a concession ticket for them between categories 1 and 4. You have to buy a category 5 or above, which means that you're likely to be up in the gods, which doesn't really bode well. The new breed of West Ham fan that you want to, from your family, you want to bring them along. You've either got to pay full price to have them sitting next to you between categories 1 and 4, or you've got to go up in the heavens with them. And I think that's a little bit unfair. Also, for elderly, for older fans, who are pensionable age, etc., they too can't buy a concession ticket in categories 1 and 4. And I just wonder how much of an impact the renewals has had on that. Yes, okay, if you're renewing, you can still get your ticket, and if you do reach sort of pension age, you will get a concession for the ticket that you've got in the category that you are. But if you're buying a new ticket, if you're bringing family members or whatever who can get a concession, either an older concession or a younger concession, West Ham United have gotten rid of those for categories 1 and 4, and I think that's bad news. West Ham maintain that they're simply following protocol of what other Premier League clubs are doing. But the money that they make, the few million that they'll make on top of, keeping them at adult prices is negligible in the grand scheme of things, which is a real shame. And it looks like it may sort of price out our next generation of West Ham fans. Now, many are suggesting that, of course, West Ham will do this because they want tourists instead, come in paying full price, etc. But we've got to be careful there, to be quite honest with you, because first of all, the atmosphere isn't great every single game, as we all know. It's not the best of atmospheres at times. And if you've got more and more tourists turning up, sitting in the lower seats in the categories 1 and 4, and they don't provide an atmosphere, it's only going to get worse, which is a real shame. So you won't get that kind of tradition, that kind of noise that you would get from traditional fans. And, also, secondly, we haven't always filled the stadium, have we? There have been games, when we played certain teams, there have been games, even some of the European games, where we haven't filled the stadium out. So if West Ham are thinking that they're going to start filling all these seats, categories 1 to 4, with tourist fans turning up on the day, I think they're going to be very much mistaken. I think it could backfire on them, to be quite honest with you. And I know that Hammers United are trying to get out there and trying to sort of rally fans around to sort of protest against this. And I actually hope that happens. I think it's a really, really bad move. The last thing you want, you've got a son, a daughter that you want to start taking to West Ham United. You're in category 1 to 4, and you say, I like to buy 2 tickets, one for me and one for my kid. And they go, yeah, that's 2 adult prices, please. I mean, it's just going to put you off. Not only would it, stop you from taking, your kids to the game, it might even stop you. You might turn around and go, sod this for a laugh. No point. No point. I might as well not renew. And I think, maybe, just maybe, having such a low return on season ticket renewals could have something to do with the fact that West Ham United have made this arbitrary decision on having all season tickets in category 1 and 4 adult prices. It's a shame. Anyway, sticking with tickets, if you didn't already know, our Ticketmaster last week had a major data breach. Apparently, across the world, over 500 million accounts were reported to have been accessed. So I don't want to shit you. I don't want to scare you or anything. But apparently West Ham could be one of several clubs, football clubs, that may have been affected by this. Now, Ticketmaster have stated that they don't believe that any UK data has been breached. Still waiting for confirmation on that. But that's quite a serious thing. We heard the other day about the NHS having their data breached as well. And now Ticketmaster also, well, before that, had their data breached too, which is a real concern. It seems to be happening quite regularly. Now, the club have stated, or have reported that, like I've just said, apparently we are not, our data has not been breached, but we're waiting for 100% confirmation from Ticketmaster about this. Staying with the stadium again. Some of you may or may not be aware that the LLDC run the stadium. They operate the stadium. They are reducing their numbers, LLDC, and Chairman Lord Peter Hendy and CEO Lynn Garner will both be leaving because they're downsizing LLDC. They're reducing their capacity over what they do, what they operate in. And it is widely regarded that quite possibly West Ham United may do a deal with the Mayor of London to take over the operational side of the stadium, not to own it, not to buy it outright, but just run the operation side. Now, it's no secret that West Ham have wanted to do this for some time. What they don't want to do is they don't want to own the stadium outright, but running the operational side of it could be beneficial to them. Now, our rent is something like £4 million a year. And then the rest of it is subsidized when all the activity happens. It costs an awful lot more to run the stadium. And of course, it's subsidized by the taxpayer. Now, if West Ham United took over the operational running of the stadium, it cost something like £16 million a year to do so. But why would they want to do that? Well, the reason why they would want to do it, so instead of renting the stadium out on this concessionaire agreement that we currently have, it will become a proper lease, and then we can operationally do other things. And we could start getting things like naming rights and sponsorship deals and stuff like that in order to cover the costs. Now, I hear you ask, well, how come the LLDC haven't done that? Naming rights has been an issue for the London Stadium ever since it opened. They don't seem, LLDC have not been able to have got on any naming rights set up for the stadium. But under Karen Brady, much as you may loathe her, one thing she is good at, she's good at the business side. And West Ham United believe that they can cover most of the operating costs by getting things like sponsorship, by getting naming rights in the stadium as well. So watch out for that. A lot of stuff going on in the background. And talking about Miss Brady, is apparently she's still looking for investors. Now, she came back recently from the Middle East without any investments for the club. What has happened, I've said this a few times before, Vanessa Gold has got 10% of shares to sell, but she hasn't been able to find a buyer for those shares. And the recent thinking is that Sullivan and Kretinsky are looking to reduce their sharehold to something like 25% in order to add some shares to the Vanessa Gold shares, so we can offer like an operating stake in the club. So if we get an investor that's got some sort of input, in a controlling input into the club, West Ham United believe that might be a more attractive offer to potential investors. So it's interesting. Apparently that's still happening. Watch this space should it happen. Right, let's get on to a bit of football, shall we? Actually, before I do, I'm going to say it again. If you're if you only just joined and new to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel and please do hit the like button. Good evening, Pete. I hope you're well. Good evening, James. How are you? Can the deal still be gazumped until the 1st of July? If he signs the contract as of tomorrow, today or tomorrow, no, it can't. Until he signs, he could have his medical. He may not sign his contract, and at that point, yes. We can still be gazumped. But if he signs the contract, the minute that contract's signed, even if it's not coming into effect from the 1st of July, that's it. The contract signs because you're signing a contract to say, I will be your player from the 1st of July. So it's a done deal. When will Guilherme be officially announced? I reckon it will be Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest. KP. We all remember Savio, but don't think Guilherme will be such a flop. Don't we just remember Savio? Great player. Why did we let him go? Infamy. So will Lope's primary formation be 4-3-3 is my understanding. Yes. And is there any word who'll be next season captain yet? No. But there is a lot of talk that Kurt Zouma will have the captaincy taken off him. I'm not surprised. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if that happens, to be quite honest with you. With the greatest of respect to Zouma, he wasn't the best leader out there, was he? Especially when we were getting thumped week in, week, well, not week in, week out, but when we weren't doing well, you need someone to rally round the players, and he wasn't the man to do it. And there's an awful lot of talk. I mean, I know Bowen has spoken about loving to captain West Ham, and I know a lot of fans will say, well, you can't have a winger being captain. Well, I don't know. I don't know. The only one, ironically, I don't want to be captain is a striker. I don't think that works too well. But having a goalkeeper or a defender or midfielder as a captain, yeah, I wouldn't mind that. And I wouldn't mind Bowen becoming captain. Otherwise, there's an awful lot of talk about, James Ward-Prowse becoming captain. But I'm not so sure how many starts James Ward-Prowse will get. I'm also not sure how many starts Kurt Zouma will get next season, because as you know, we're after 2 central defenders, and I'm pretty certain that two central defenders will mean that someone like Kurt Zouma is going to be more backup than is going to be a starter. So yes, I don't know who it will be, but it's almost pretty certain that Kurt Zouma will have the captaincy taken off him. Beats, good evening to you. What happened to the last Brazilian? We got Luis Guilherme, who's still in the under-21s. He's still plying his trade there. I don't know. There was rumor that maybe he will be sold this summer, but he's been named in the retain list. So at this moment in time, he's still there. Peter, would be good if we could do our business silently instead of announcing it. Well, I said this last week. It's not always the club that announces all these rumors. The way that the wheel turns is, an agent has got a player. He wants to move him on, sell him or whatever. So he goes and tells a journalist, my player's available. And West Ham United are interested. So the journalist puts it out there. Another journalist picks it up, puts it out there as well. And before you know it, everyone's believing it when there may not be any truth in the story. So it doesn't always come from the club, to be quite honest with you. Well, who else we got here? Gauchi, good evening to you. Excellent news, but we need some strong leaders this season as well. Big characters are leaving and need replacement. Absolutely agree. It's going to be interesting to see who else we actually go for in this transfer window. Who else have we got? Stephen, good evening to you. Trudge, would love to see Garcia at West Ham. Is that Alex Garcia? Yeah, very interesting player. Interestingly, I actually haven't got him on my list of transfers, but I couldn't put everyone up. But Alex Garcia, I know Leverkusen are interested in him. It's going to be interesting to see whether with his current club, no, not with his current club. Leverkusen are they're offering Champions League football, aren't they? So it really depends. The players we're going for, I think I said this again in a show last week, we're going for players that look as if like they may not necessarily the jump from going from where they are to come into a team that plays European football, may not be Europa football, Champions League football, may not be in their interest. Maybe there's a lot of players out there that we seem to be targeting that are happy to go to Premier League football and then work their way into getting us back into Europe. I think Garcia, it's going to be a tough one for him. You know, the lure of the Premier League with probably more money, or Champions League football with Leverkusen. Let's see how that one turns out. Michael, do you see Ward-Prowse or Souček being in Loppe's team? Well, I've just mentioned Ward-Prowse. I don't actually. Souček, I think, interestingly, I think they're the ones that are going to be changed over. You know, maybe Souček starts, Ward-Prowse comes on. Ward-Prowse starts, Souček comes on. I think Lopetegui is going to be looking at bringing in one or two, or certainly at least another one central midfielder. And if we keep Paquetá, depending on what happens, you know, we might well keep him for quite a while until his case with the betting happens. He'll be around for a while. I can't see Alvarez being replaced. And if we do bring a player in like Garcia or similar, Fofana, someone like that, I can't honestly see James Ward-Prowse or Thomas Souček getting an awful lot of starts. Certainly being used as subs, but not necessarily as starters. Good evening to you, James. I hope you're well. Who else we got here? Toha? Wolves had Portugal away colours a couple of years ago, didn't they? I don't know. They might have done. You're probably right. So why not have a Brazilian shirt as our away shirt? Debbie and Mark. Wan-Bissaka got a year left on his contract, 26 years old and homegrown. Would be a nice signing. Would be. I think his salary is quite high. But we've been linked to Wan-Bissaka for so long. I don't know anymore. Interesting one, though. I agree. James, what are people's thoughts on the whole centre-back, Jacob Greaves? Another one I've not listed in my transfers tonight, to be quite honest with you. I think he's an interesting one. He's had a pretty decent season for Hull, but and I think maybe he'll be a backup if we don't manage to get Vitao in from International. Let's scroll down a bit. Andrew. We need to get an experienced centre-back. I'm hoping for Kilman, but hearing he might be, well, not hearing, he definitely will be around about 40 million. So that might price us out of that market. Hence the likes of Greaves being rumoured. There's another player that I'm going to talk about later, from Udinese and so on. Kenneth, thoughts on Tammy Abrahams coming to West Ham? Look, £25 million. Look, he's come back from a really serious injury, cruciate ligament. He's only been playing a couple of months. So there's always that thing in the back of your mind that, you know, we always seem to buy players who've got, who are injury prone. Okay, you can't help when you get injured, you get injured. You can't help it. But once you've had an injury, you kind of get another injury and another injury. Not bad. I don't think he'll be that bad a signing if he can stay fit. And apparently, Roma only want 25 mil for him. So he's got a good age. If it's 25 mil, then why not? Fred, the big Irish centre-back looks a bit of a brick wall. If he can use his feet a bit, pick a pass, I would take a punt. Less than 30 million, though. Can't remember his name, but he's the one that we're talking about swapping for Ben Rama plus money. I'm not so sure, to be quite honest with you. It's another one. It's too easy a story to say, oh, yeah, there's a centre-back. West Ham need a centre-back. Ben Rama wants to go to Lyon. Oh, swap deal and money. Not so sure. I don't know if he's the type of centre-back that Lopetegui would necessarily want at the club. I could be wrong again. Howard, sculpting with my daughter. Usual. Hope you're well. Sculpting with your daughter sounds interesting. Bill, substitutions are a necessity in today's game. Counter or change tactics mid-game, and importantly, getting players off early if appears to be carrying an injury. Days of time substitutions have gone. You know, that's one thing that I will not miss. That's one thing I won't miss. That you can set your watch by it, couldn't you? 70 minutes substitution. Okay, thanks, David Moyes. That's one thing I will not miss at all. Epic. Ben Johnson isn't good enough. I think he's all right. Is he a good enough Premier League player? I think we've got to assess that, given that we need 6, maybe 7 players coming to West Ham United. I'll get to this in a moment. When we got 6 or 7 players that we need to sign, I think we're going to have to probably make do with 1 or 2 players that are still at the club. And someone like Johnson could be a good filler for the time being, maybe for another season or two. Tony, that's why our new manager can't start to the 1st of July, but he was named as our manager, so probably the same players. Exactly right. You can name them, but they won't actually, their contract won't officially start until the 1st of July. Thank you, Billy Bob. I hope you're well, mate. Glenn, good evening to you. Crazy, but only a year ago, I didn't think we were good enough for Tony. Now I don't think he's good enough for us. That's an interesting quote, because Tony, I think he'll be too expensive for us, getting on a bit, and I don't think Lopetegui is going to be too keen on signing or Steidten and Lopetegui are going to be too keen on signing too many players who are kind of like the latter half of their 20s and then coming in for like maybe 40 odd million pound as well. I'm not too sure. John, if we sign Johnson on a 3-year contract, we can sell in a couple of years for what he has cost us in wages. Spot on. Really good point. David Butt. I've just renewed taking the biscuit. Renewed your season ticket. It's not great, is it? What they've done. James Greaves is a no-nonsense centre-back and looks the part. This is what we keep hearing about Lopetegui is he wants his centre-backs who can play a bit of football. That's why I keep saying in the back of my mind, is he going to ask a Gerd to stay or is he going to really let a Gerd go? Now, we keep hearing a Gerd, he hasn't settled in the Premier League. There are clubs interested in him, etc., etc., etc. And however, a Gerd is the sort of centre-back that Lopetegui probably would like at the club. But Greaves, no nonsense. It's the same about the centre-back at Lyon. I'm just not sure if they're the type of player that Lopetegui wants at the club. I could be wrong, though. Could be completely wrong. Let's scroll down. Do forgive me if I don't pick up some of your comments. I'm trying to bring in as many as I possibly can. Good evening to you, DeCanio. How are you? Legacy fans are being phased out. Dolly Birds from Westfield and Taurus are in. Chris, unfortunate, isn't it? Chris, when my boy is old enough, I would just buy in the gods and he can come down with me. Good point. Yeah, come down. Yeah, well, a lot of fans do that. Kowal, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Infamy. It's not a good sign that a lot of these big companies in the 5 to 10 years have had data breaches. Not a good sign at all, is it really? GJ, good evening to you. James, the coroner said this body was in a position. What have I missed? Do tell me what I've missed there. You're talking about the Dr. Mosley, or is it something else? Garino, the latest ITK from person. The latest ITK says Guilherme all done. Bruno negotiations back on and looking positive. Lopetegui going all out for Alex Garcia. Now, the Bruno one is quite interesting because I did hear the same thing the other day, that deal is not completely dead in the water. However, we are not going to be paying for Fabrizio Bruno 100 grand a week. That ain't going to happen. Now, if we can come to a sensible deal. Now, apparently, it's gone from, he earns something like about 15 grand a week in Brazil. Now, over there, well, mind you, over here, 15 grand a week to anyone is a fucking king's ransom in some ways. But over there, 15 grand a week for a player is pretty good money. And there was a suggestion that that's all we were offering him over here. I'm not so sure that's true. But anyway, let's go with it. And he went, no way, I'm not upping my family, etc. My wife's pregnant again, second child, blah, blah, blah. Not worth it. 15 grand a week to come to West Ham, not worth it. I agree. For a footballer, not for us common folk. 15 grand a week, I'll bite your fucking hand off for it. But for a footballer, 15 grand a week in London, it's not a lot of money. Now, I did explain this a few weeks ago, that the lowest paid player at West Ham United is on about 30 grand a week. Something like that, give or take 30 odd grand a week for now, apart from Ben Johnson, who came through on academy wages. But someone like Soufal is on 30, 35 grand a week plus bonuses. Now, if we can agree with Bruno, look, mate, here's 35, 40 grand a week plus bonuses. I think he'd take that. I think he would come for that. We're certainly not going to give him 100 grand a week. So I heard the same thing, Carino, that apparently the Bruno deal is not completely dead and buried. Danny Boy, they promised us affordable football when we moved. The club don't want season ticket holders. It's pure Sullivan greed, and it's a disgrace. It's a weird one. I really do hope they go back on this because it's just really weird. You're killing the next, the future of the fan base. It's a fact. All right. family run club. Yeah, I think those days are long gone. But it would be a shame to outprice traditional fans by saying that you can only have full price season tickets in categories 1 to 4. It's weird. It's a really odd one. Do forgive me. I'm scrolling down all the way. How far behind am I? Not far. Bill, I work for a company who thought that it had a robust online system. A client frustratingly randomly smashed the keyboard in frustration and got in behind the login. So no online system is full safe. There you go. It's like it's like we're going to go back to pen and paper, aren't we? Putting it all on paper rather than online. Hammerit, I get we all think we need a fair few players next season. However, I think we're blindsided by how crap we've been under Moyes, and I think there may only be about 4 signings coming in. I think there'll be about 6. And I'll get to it in a minute. I'm chomping at the bit to get to my squadometer. It's not that exciting. But anyway, infamy. Does anyone know how the scouting system works in the UK? How many scouts do clubs usually? Don't know, but we've got a better scouting network than we did. And surprise, surprise, that's because of David Moyes. I know you're going to go, what? What are you talking about? But David Moyes did build our scouting network up more than it ever had been. Aaron, apparently, but I don't know what numbers. I mean, I'm sure clubs have got different number of scouts, international scouts as well. But that's what we've now got. We've built on that, haven't we? With our scouting network and our analysts, etc. It's grown. Aaron, apparently we're still in the market for another winger. Guessing right-footed, inverted left. We are indeed. But no new names have come up, apart from one that I'm going to mention a bit later on. Bill, Luzau is shown in the adults retain list. He is indeed. Well, actually, there's quite a few who are shown in the adults retain list. I think he turns 22 this year, so he's no longer going to be classified as an under 21. Mark, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. I'm already a little excited about next season. Just let the man do his job. Nobody above interfere. Garcia would be a great signing. I think Sullivan. Let's hope that Sullivan has finally realised that there's a different way to get players in, a different way to run the football club. I've said it many a time, more often than over the past couple of years. We've always been good at the business side of West Ham United. So Brady knows a good deal when she sniffs one out, but we've not been good at the footballing side. And I know that sounds a bit strange, but bear me out. So when it comes to moving stadium, when it comes to business deals, etc., we do all right out of that. It's not too bad. And I dare say, I talked earlier on about us potentially taking over the operational running of the stadium. I think we'll do that really well under the likes of Brady. Whatever you think of her, I do think, if we took over the operating of the stadium, we'd make a success of it. When it comes to the footballing side, when it comes to players, transfers, etc., we've been utter shite, haven't we? For a long time. Sullivan's mates, keep sort of whispering in his ear, "I've got a little player for you, mate. Come on, it makes sense to have this player," instead of scouting players properly. And I think now we've finally turned that corner. It did start, like it or not, it started with David Moyes setting up a proper scouting network. The trouble with David Moyes is he didn't use the fucking scouting network because he still wanted the players he wanted, regardless of what the scouts were recommending to him. Now, with Steidten in charge of the scouting of players, it's a completely different ball game. We're finally sort of moving into the sort of scenario that other Premier League clubs have been doing for a long time, relying on your analysis, relying on your scouts in order to get the right sort of players in. And I think we have finally turned a corner. Trodge, I'm normally pessimistic with our ambition, but I feel this time we're undertaking a full rebuild and a few people will be shocked at some surprise departures. I don't think I will be, and I'm going to get to that. I'm chomping at the bit to talk about my squadometer. I will get to that in a minute. Good evening to you, Schizo. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Hammer it. If we get Guilherme, then I see a centre-back, maybe 2 more, in my opinion, until the January window. After Loppy's had half a season to get things running. Hope I'm wrong, Obs. I think we will not get all the players we need. Hence why I think we're going to retain some players, but they're not going to be there, as Trodge has just suggested. I think we won't be, it won't surprise me that there might be 1 or 2 players that could be leaving. If not in this window, maybe in January, or certainly, let's not forget, Lopetegui's here for 3 seasons. Well, 2 + 1. So it's not all going to be changed in this summer transfer window. But I think you're right, Trodge. I think there might be 1 or 2 players leaving that people will be surprised at. Vinay. I'm looking forward to West Ham keeping the ball more. I hate low possession, low block football. Imagine not having to moan about that. What shall we start moaning about afterwards, though, Vinay? Can't see us keeping Souček. He can't pass. Ronnie, good evening to you. Garino, Luzal may have been part of a deal for another player we brought in around the same time. You're going to have to remind me who that might be because I can't remember that. Mark, do you think Bruno has missed his last chance of a jet to the Premier League? Well, as I've said a moment ago, it looks like maybe that deal was not completely dead and buried. But let's see. He would be a fool, with the greatest of respect. 28 years of age. He's come to the fore quite late. He got brought into the Brazilian national team only this year at the age of 28. To turn a deal down into the Premier League with the sort of money it can offer, etc., and the contracts it can offer, I think would be rather foolish of him. With the greatest of respect, maybe another team might come in for him if we don't do a deal. But if he doesn't do it and then no other club comes in for him, he might be kicking himself after a few seasons or after 1 season. Peter. New captain needs to be someone who can get the team in line instead of Zuma, who was like a ghost of a captain. He was indeed. I do agree with that. He wasn't the best of captains that we could have had. It didn't help on the pitch at all. Infamy. Tammy's injury history is concerning. His ankles seem to be really weak. And after his recent cruciate ligament injury, not sure how much he's recovered mentally and physically since he's been out for so long. It's a good point. Ronnie. How much would it cost for a Ben Johnson like-for-like replacement, and what would be their wages? It's a good point, and I talked about this. Johnson's after 60 grand a week, which in the grand scheme of things for footballers perhaps is not too greedy. Oh, fucking hell! Listen to me saying this. It's not too greedy when I talk about 60 grand a week. But apparently West Ham weren't ready to offer him that. If we bought a replacement, let's not forget we'd have to pay. We have to pay a transfer fee, pay agents' fees and all that sort of stuff, and then pay a player who's going to be half decent. Certainly a player that's going to be better than Johnson. We're going to have to probably pay him 50, 60 grand a week. So if we go for Johnson, then I don't know what deal is going to be agreed. I don't know. Let's say for argument's sake, he gets offered 35, 40 grand a week plus bonuses. I think he should take that. And I know a lot of people say, well, if it's only another 20 grand a week, we can get a better player. But it's not only another 20 grand a week because it's the transfer fee, agents' fees, etc. on top of that. My gut tells me that Johnson will accept whatever the deal may be, and that will be a good backup for us. It will hit, a homegrown player, so it ticks that box. Another player that we don't have to worry about if Lopetegui just keeps him on the right side, to cover for or in competition with Soufal. So that would be an area that Lopetegui. That's probably why, not probably why, it's why we've extended Aaron Cresswell's contract by another year. So Lopetegui is thinking to himself, look, it may not be the best, but it's good enough for now because my focus has got to be on the 2 central defenders that we've heard about, a striker that we've heard about, probably a midfielder to cover for Paquetá if we lose him, and a left-sided. So the focus is on these are the areas that we've got big gaps in. Big gaps in central defence, big gaps in a striker, big gap on the left side of attacking midfield. So Lopetegui and Steidten are spending their money accordingly, mind you. Having just said that, they've just spent 20 odd million pounds on a untried 18-year-old or 19-year-old. But you get my drift. We can't replace every single position that we feel is weak. So I get the Ben Johnson thing. So you're absolutely right. It could cost us a lot more to get a replacement. So why not give Johnson? I don't think Johnson will get 60 grand a week, but if he gets 35, 40 grand a week plus bonuses, I think that'll be good enough and it will cover an area for now. Kansas Storm, good evening to you. And Naziri is the perfect striker for us. Ticks all boxes, proven track record, not old, bargain price, and has worked for Lopetegui before. No brainer, except for he's going for the Saudi money. But other than that, you're absolutely right. Sean, if we sell a Gerd for 3 Hugils, we could afford to Brazilians. Tony, if all we heard is that there is there are all these clubs that must sell before the 30th of June or fall foul of FFP. Yet those clubs are outbidding for us. This is why I can't hold too much, with regards to Nottingham Forest going for the centre back Vitao that we're after, because you're absolutely right. Got to sell first. Please do forgive me if I haven't read your comment out. Fernando Pereira, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Pedro from Flamengo is the best Brazilian striker, number 9 in the last 4 years, and he is young. Very good name, guys. Thank you for that. I don't know much about him. Pedro from Flamengo. Have we talked about him before? May have done. But thank you for that. I'm going to look him up. Right. Let's do a little bit more of the show, and then I'll get back to your comments, because we've had quite a few international friendlies. Well, not just friendlies, international games over the past week or so. So first off, West Ham United's Mohamed Kudus and Mikel Antonio both enjoyed success on international stage last Thursday. The duo both involved in victories in qualifying for the 2026 World Cup finals. Ghana and Jamaica defeated Mali and Dominican Republic, respectively. Kudus played 88 minutes as Ghana moved up to second place in standings with 3 games of the 10-match campaign now completed. Antonio started in Kingston in their 1-0 win. Friday night's internationals also saw a number of other West Ham players. Naif Gerd played in the qualification 2026 World Cup qualification. He was a starter for Morocco, where they secured a 2-1 win over Zambia. In Europe, Vladimir Sufal played for the Czech Republic in the Euro 2024, what was that, warm-up friendly game, where they beat Malta 7-1. He had 2 assists, Sufal. So well done to him. Thomas Souček was an unused sub in that game. Who else has been on international duty? Dinos Mavropanos. They haven't qualified for 2024 Euros, but they were the hosts against Germany in Germany's warm-up game. Germany went 1-0 down, but then they won 2-1. And congratulations to Jared Bowen, who has made the final squad for Gareth Southgate's squad for the 2024 Euros. Of course, as we know, he played in the first friendly about a week or so ago now, and he didn't play in the game where we lost 1-0 against Iceland. What an absolutely turgid, boring game that was. That's 2 hours of my life I won't get back. At the weekend, Lucas Paquetá and Edson Alvarez faced off against one another in an international friendly in the US. It was Paquetá's Brazil who came out on top in a 5-goal thriller, as Alvarez's Mexico came back from 2 down, only to lose out in stoppage time. Alvarez earned his 78th cap for Mexico. He skippered the side as well in their final warm-up game before the Copa America kicks off. Now, not only do we have the Euros, but we've got Copa America that's happening around the same time. So we've got quite a few West Ham United players that are going to be playing football throughout the summer. And then when it comes, of course, they're going to need time off when these competitions finish. I think the Copa America finishes on something like the 24th of July. I think the Euros finish, give or take, round about that time as well. And then they're going to come back, and then they're going to be, they'll have time off. They'll get a certain amount of time off, etc. I don't expect to see many of these international players going out to the American tour that we're going to have in July. So, and then dependent, I don't know. Will they be back in time and trained in time, fully rested in time for the new season to start? Interesting. What else we got? On Sunday as well, Jamaica made it 2 wins in a row in the 2026 qualifiers for the World Cup. Antonio was not involved, but in a 3-2 win over Dominica. And later on Sunday, Alphonse Areola was an unused sub in France's game against Canada. Right. What about the squad? Well, we saw the retain list that was issued last week, and 9 players were released from that. Of those, in the under-21 squad, goalie Jacob Knightbridge and right wing-back Dan Chesters, as well as Keenan Apai-Forsan, were the more prominent players in the under-21s where their contracts were not renewed. In the senior team, of course, we bid a fond farewell to Angelo Ogbonna. Iconic. I talked about him in a show last week. He'd be sorely missed. I know he's taken his coaching badges. Wouldn't it be lovely if West Ham United invited him back to become a coach, maybe for the academy? Because fantastic character to have had around. Farewell, Oggy. You'll always be remembered for me. You'll always be remembered for that FA Cup winning goal in injury time against Liverpool when we beat them back at the old ground. So farewell to him, but we kind of knew that was coming. There were a number of scholars released as well. Seb Booth, Liam Jones, Jemiah Umolu, and Blaise Uwanji have all been released. Sorry to see them go, but a few scholars have been given contracts. Tyrone Akpakta and Favour Fawumni have both been offered contracts, as mentioned earlier, Divin Mbama and Ben Johnson. It was thought that Ben Johnson and Mbama were going to be leaving the club as free agents when the season was over. But as I've already mentioned about 5 minutes ago, in Johnson's case, I think there's hope that an agreement has finally been reached. I know people are sort of blow hot and cold about him, but I think he's decent enough to have in the squad. Mbama, it looks as if like he could be leaving, but let's see what happens with him. Right, so as Tim Steidten continues to look for players to build the squad up, here's my squadometer. There's a number of players on the right side that either have left or could be leaving, and I've included in there. Now, someone said it a moment ago, there might be one or two surprises that might leave. One of the surprises could well be someone like James Ward-Prowse. I think Flynn Downs, it's still up in the air about him. We've heard about a Gerd who doesn't want to stay at West Ham. Maxwell Cornet could be leaving. Ben Rama could still be leaving. Danny Ings, we hear that we're interested in offers for him. And then the two players that I've mentioned about having contracts renewed or being in negotiations, Ben Johnson and Divin Mbama. And of course, we've got Lucas Paquetá on that side as well, because we just don't know how everything is going to turn out with his being charged by the FA over betting irregularities. And so if you look at that, and then you look at the players who I think will be dead cert starters. How many have I got in there? I've got 5 starters. And then on the left side, 3, 4, 5, 6, another 7 players. There's only 12 players there. Should all those players on the right-hand side of your screen leave? But I don't think, as been said, I think, Lopetegui and Steidten are going to play this clever. There's no way we can afford to lose so many players in one transfer window. So I think it's going to be a little bit more like this. I think Paquetá, I think we're going to see his case delayed, which will probably keep him playing for the club until at the very least Christmas time. I think Ben Johnson, who I've already mentioned, is likely to get a new deal. And then there'll be 1 or 2 players that could probably stay, the likes of James Ward-Prowse, Cornet, etc., to boost the numbers. We're still going to need, look, all those West Ham badges there. There's still 4, there's still 6, there's 7 badges there. You could argue we still need at least 7 players in this summer transfer window. But the players on the right, I think, look like could really be going. We've already lost Joseph Anang, Ogbonna, and Tilo Kera. I think a Gerd will go. It looks like it's quite possible that he'll be lured away. I want Flynn Downs to stay. I think he'll make a good backup, but I think he will go as well. I think Ben Rama will go. I think we'll get money for Danny Ings for him to go as well. And I don't think Mbama will get a new deal, or he won't agree to a new deal. Now, that means we still need 7 players, but it makes it a little bit easier because we've got players that are going to be backup. I think Ward-Prowse, Souček, Mavropanos, maybe even Soufal, Antonio, etc. I don't think you're going to see a lot. I don't think you're going to see them starting an awful lot of games next season. I think they're going to be used as backup. Now, will they like that? No, of course they won't. They'll see themselves as first team players, starters, but I think this is where the sort of the evolution of the squad will happen. Because if we get, let's say, for argument's sake, 5 or 6 players in this transfer window and keep the players that I've got there under squad players on the left-hand side, plus the players that I think will be dead cert starters, all of a sudden it makes it a little bit easier in the transfer window. We can't go out there and buy ourselves 9 or 10 players. We don't have the budget for it anyway, but also we can't just, it'll be too difficult to sort of bed all those players in. So I think, we'll be going for at least 6 players in order to fill the gaps. The 2 centre-backs, a striker, a left-sided attacking player, And of course, we're going to have Guilherme filling one of those gaps on the left-hand side as well. But I think you'll be seeing quite a few players who will be sort of, I don't want to call them fringe players, because under Moyes, you would say, yeah, anyone that's on the bench is a bit of a fringe player. They're never going to get much game time. But in terms of the way Lopetegui uses his squad, you will see these players being used more and more regularly. And I think that's what's going to happen. But when it comes to the January transfer window, you could well see the likes of James Ward-Prowse, maybe even Antonio, maybe Zuma moving on. But then, of course, we'll have to get replacements for them in that window. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the squad. I don't think many players will go. I think some players will be dead certs to go. It's going to be interesting. It's going to also be interesting to see the sort of players that we're going to go for. We so many names are being bandied around at the moment. You know, it's difficult to sort of keep up with all the different players that we've been linked to. And I'm going to talk about those transfers in a moment. But let's see what you've got to say about, the squad that I've just mentioned. Mark, 4 quality signings and a couple on loan in this window should be enough. No point in signing 7 or 8 average players. Then the rebuild will continue through the next few windows. That's a really good point. Jason. Hwang from Wolves, rate him a lot in attack with Kudus Bowen, lots of energy. Interesting. DJ, good evening to you. O'Brien looks strong, pretty pacey for a big lad and decent short passer. Hits a good cross field ball as well. Freedom, heard and Naziri prefers a Saudi move. That's what I've heard as well. And it's quite likely he may favour the money. Who knows? I did ask last week, how influenced is it going to be for Lopetegui, for him to want to work with Lopetegui again, or does the money, come calling? SLM, good evening to you. When is West Ham going to get sponsored by a better band like Nike? Soon. Apparently, we're in our last year of Umbro, if I'm not mistaken. I'd love Adidas to come back. They did some absolutely classic football shirts, to be quite honest with you. Ironix, good evening to you, mate. Most clubs keep their scouting system under wraps. We've got a proper scouting system. We've got, we set up networks. I gave homage to Rob Newman last week for setting up the network over in Brazil, which I think Steidten is benefiting from now. Excuse me. Vinay, the good news, Moyes built up the scouting system massively. The bad news, he never signed anyone in January transfer. No, agreed. Good evening to you, sir. How are you? Baden Powell was the best scout. Dib and all that shit. Paul, JWP, back to Southampton in exchange for Walker Peters. Possibility. Funky T, good evening to you. Evening still, I'm a fashionably late to the party. You haven't missed much. No, you haven't missed much. Good news in signings. Is it true Johnson will be staying? I've just mentioned that. Thoughts on Creswell's extension? Makes sense. Creswell is a bit like Ben Johnson. It makes sense. We, like I've just mentioned, we can't afford to replace all the players that I'm sure Lopetegui would like to afford in all positions. So it's a stage, isn't it? Evolution, as I keep saying. So get the players in that are essential: centre back, striker, left side attacking player, and 1 or 2 others. And then, over time, then you start replacing the likes of Creswell, maybe the likes of Soufal, etc., etc. Infamy. If Paquetá is found guilty, is he banned from football, or can he play in a league not associated with FIFA? Banned completely. If the others who got banned under the same system, anything to go by, he won't even be able to play Sunday league football. That would be it. But what he'll do is he will appeal it. Where the trick is, or where the FIFA or the FA will come a little bit unstuck, is if he appeals it. Do they stop him from playing, or will he be allowed to continue playing whilst the appeal is happening? Now, the latest I've heard is that he's asked for more time to come back on the charges. It was meant to be on the 5th of June. He's asked for a long time, more time. I don't know what the new date is going to be set at. It could be that it be set at when the new season starts. And then it's going to be heard, and then a decision is going to be made by the panel. Now, what will be interesting is if he's found guilty, will they instantly ban him from all football, or will they allow him an opportunity to carry on playing whilst an appeal is ongoing? This is unprecedented, because It's not like the Ivan Toney ban and stuff like that, because if they ban Paquetá, it's a life ban, or it'll be a minimum 5, 6, 7 year ban. So it's quite different where Tony was banned for, what was it, 8 months or whatever it was. This is this is your career's over, mate, ban. So there'll be an appeal. And then there'll be the thing of, well, if you don't allow me to play and earn money, I'll sue you. I'll sue you for loss of earnings. So it could go into that, and he's got Rock Nation under him. That's their, one of the biggest agents in South America or in Brazil. They're not going to allow this to sort of, they won't just take this lying down. They will sort of pull out all the stops on this. So my understanding is, yes, okay, if he does get done for it, and who knows? Who knows? He could get done. He could get done for it. If he does, then the unprecedented part is: will they ban him? Will they say you cannot play football whilst an appeal is happening? If that's the case, then we'll see what happens. It's going to get messy. It's not going to be good. Andrew, is Barry Siltman still involved with Sully? Yes, he is. And apparently Siltman went over there to have a little holiday in Brazil as well. James, good evening, Stelk. Good evening to you, mate. I just want to say Sullivan and Brady don't care about football or people. They care about money. That's it. Don't disagree with that. Don't disagree with that. And please don't get me wrong in what I said earlier on. Business-wise, they know what they're doing. When it comes to the footballing side, thank God we finally got the likes of Steidten in, who can actually look after the footballing side of things. John, good evening to you. I was going to say, I just hope that these buys don't block Earthy's progress, but I think it could be the making of him and other boys. Good point. A lot of people are saying about, Lopetegui is another one who's not going to use the youth. He managed the under-19s and the under-21s, Spanish youth teams who actually won championships, Euro championships under him. I don't think, and also, if we were going to block their progress, we wouldn't be going out and buying an 18, 19-year-old in Guilherme. I think it's going to be a good thing. I agree with you. If they're good enough, they will play. I've always said this, if the players are good enough, they will play. Bring on the squadometer. Well, not very impressive, was it, Sean? Gauchi. Still, we are desperate for that striker. Absolutely. Needs to be quick and can finish, but wouldn't it be great to have someone skillful? Know anyone tick those boxes? Come on, mate. You tell me, because I'm right. There's so many names that are being thrown out there. I'd be interested. You tell me. If you're asking me, Christ. I mean, Tony, not really. I'm not too sure about Ivan Toney. About Abrahams, again, I'm not too sure. I don't know if he's the sort of player that we need at West Ham, especially with his injuries. Excuse me. L&D, what's the latest with Johnson? I hope I've explained that. I hope you heard that. KP, couldn't disagree more with Brady, I'm afraid. She's an imposter entrepreneur, not managed to attract stadium sponsor, rubbish shirt sponsor, deals paying peanuts, Club London, overpriced, second rate. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fair point. That's fair point. She has got some good deals over the line, but I'm quite glad that she's not going to be involved in the footballing side. The footballing. Just leave it on the business side. Let's see if we get the operational running of the stadium. Let's see what Brady can do with that. I think she'll love that side of things. Paul. Still, I think we could get Abraham for 17 mil. This could be good business if we structured it as follows: 4 mil loan fee. Then if he proves his fitness, we'd pay the next 13 million. Good shout. Good shout. I don't know if we can get him that low, but good shouts. SLM. Are West Ham getting any other sponsors like updating Umbro? Like I said, Umbro have got about another year left, is my understanding. Right. You know what? I need a break. So why don't we go into the transfer part of the show? Where's that video? There we go. Do forgive me. I needed a sip of water. My throat was getting really dry there, so I apologize for taking that little break. Right, transfers. I've already mentioned Tim Steidten is still out in Brazil with regard, despite the fact that we've now got Guilherme over the line. I've said this earlier in the show. By the way, I'm not going to be shy in asking, because when I do, people do it. If you're new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything to become a subscriber. If you don't have a YouTube account, you can set one up really easily on your email address. Just go in, set a YouTube account up. You don't have to go and put content in on YouTube. You can just set it up and then become a subscriber. Everything's free. Free to set up, free to subscribe to this channel, and I hope you do. And do hit that like button as well if you like what you see and what you hear. Now, Steidten is still out in Brazil, even though Luis Guilherme has arrived in London to take his medical. It looks like he will be the first signing of the season. As people have said, hang on a minute, the international window doesn't open until the 1st of July. Yes, I get that, but we can announce him. We can say Luis Guilherme will be our new player, contract from the 1st of July. So, and someone also asked, well, what happens in between? If we sign him up now and then between now and the 1st of July, can anyone nick him? No. Once the contract's signed, that's it. It's a done deal. So, as I said earlier in the show, medical plan, I believe it was done today on Monday, could be unveiled as early as Tuesday or Wednesday. £19 million deal plus £6 million add-ons with a 20% sell-on clause, as well as a 5-year deal with a 1-year option. So that's great. So why is Tim Steidten still out there? Well, as people have heard earlier in the show, it looks like we still might be in either for Fabrizio Bruno from Flamengo, central defender that we were in for a few weeks ago, or it'll be Vitao, central defender with Internacional. Now, apparently he's signed something like a 4-year deal with Internacional, and I'll explain this to you. I tried to do it the other day. 24 years of age. Nottingham Forest are apparently making a late bid to try and sign him. But as we all know, Nottingham Forest have got issues with FFP, so they're going to have to sell before they buy. Otherwise, they really would be in trouble. There's a rumour that they are about to sell Murillo when the transfer window opens. So they're looking for a direct replacement. If they do sell Murillo, and I've no doubt that if Murillo becomes available, he will be gone. He's had a fantastic first season for West Ham. For Nottingham Forest. I would love to think that we could sign Murillo if we don't get Vitao. But anyway, now here's the deal. He's still on loan at International. However, he signed a permanent deal. And thank you to, I can't remember which viewer said, go and have a look at the deal here, because and I did. I can't remember the name of the viewer who made me go and look at this. So International signed a deal with Shakhtar Donetsk in January for Vitao to join International on a permanent basis on the 1st of July. So he's on loan. He's been on loan with International from Shakhtar Donetsk for the last 2 seasons. International said, we want to buy him permanently. So Shakhtar Donetsk said, no problem. I think it's about a €1.5 million, £1.2 million deal where it was signed, but it won't come into effect until the 1st of July. So he is effectively an international player. Now, also, Shakhtar Donetsk have also got a 20% economic right on the player. So if International go and sell Vitao to whoever, West Ham, Nottingham Forest or whatever price they sell him at, Shakhtar will get another 20% in the deal as well. Look, he's decent. He's played Champions League football. He played in European football for Shakhtar Donetsk. 24 years of age, 4 years younger than Fabrizio Bruno. So he's had experience of European football. To me, it sounds like a better deal all round. But let's see what happens with this transfer. Now, apparently, there's another player that was come up in the last day or so, is Nuhan Perez of Udinese, contracted until 2027, valued at around £15 million, 23 years of age. Do forgive my spelling. It's all done in a rush. He's an Argentine international, versatile central defensive midfielder, versatile central defender, and he's a bit volatile. I don't know what that means, but he's a bit volatile, but he's highly regarded. Helped keep Udinese in Serie A last season. So he's another one that apparently we're interested in should all the other deals that we're chasing fall through. Now, someone mentioned about a striker, Uzef and Naziri. Apparently, as been mentioned earlier, he's apparently being tempted by Saudi money. Look, it's going to be interesting to see whether he wants to come and work with Lopetegui again, or whether he values going to Saudi instead. It's going to be interesting. Final year of his contract fits Lopetegui's style. He played for him under Seville. So let's see what happens there. Other players that we are linked to. Well, Jota Silva, who we mentioned earlier, apparently he's got AWOL. Sorry, my misspelling again. Apparently he's actually on holiday here in London. Make of that what you will. Yeah, he's interested in the deal coming over here. Contracted. He's got 1 year left on his deal with Vitória Guimarães in Portugal. Valued at about £10 million. He's got a release clause of 17 mil. No one's going to pay that in the last year of his contract. So apparently a deal of around 10 mil might do. 24 years of age. He's had 82 appearances, 19 goals, 11 assists for Vitória Guimarães. He's a Portuguese international. West Ham apparently... This is the bit that made me laugh that I mentioned last week. We've apparently already discussed a 4-year deal with the player, but we haven't even approached his club as to whether we can speak to him or not. And someone already mentioned Tammy Abraham, contracted until 2026. Apparently now he's available for a reduced price of £25 million. But the concern is his injuries. Cruciate ligament injury kept him out until April this year. Came back into the team, scored a goal or two. But I don't know about this one. Roma is looking to sell. Roma's looking to move him on. Do we really want to sort of risk him? I don't know. I like Abraham, or I did like Abraham when he was at Chelsea, but I'm not too sure about now. Look, there are many other transfer stories out there, you know, more than you can shake a stick at the moment. So you tell me which ones you want me to talk about, and I'll do other shows about them. So let's go back into your comments. Garino. Bowen should have a big part to play in these Euros, but Southgate will just pander to the media and pick Palmer. He will do. Old man, got a week's fishing in France from Friday. Can't wait. Get away from it all, mate. That's the right thing to do. DJ, good evening to you. Loppy likes his fullbacks to deliver balls into the box. At Sevilla, the vast percentage of crosses came from them. Cressy has one of the best left foot deliveries in the league. It's a really good point. But can he bomb up and down that side? That's the thing I'd be a bit worried about. I can see Cresswell being a good backup, but not necessarily a starter. But good point there, mate. Who else have we got? Garino. Bowen is direct, hugs the touchline, pushes the teams up, can play as a striker, puts in defensive shifts, scores with his left, right, and head. Southgate will be a turnip not to use him. You know he'll be a bit part player. He absolutely will. Toha, isn't Emerson unsettled? So they say. So apparently Roma are interested in Emerson. I'm not too sure, because that's another story that comes and goes as quickly as anything else. I don't know, to be quite honest with you. Let's see what happens there. I don't think we'd want to let Emerson go. Barry, hi, I hope you're good, mate. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. Charles, JWP and Ings back to Southampton. Hopefully that could happen. But that could only happen if Alex Garcia is a player. You notice I didn't put any details up about Garcia, because I've got a feeling, I talked about him earlier, I've got a feeling he'll be going to Leverkusen. I love him to come to West Ham, and I hope I'm wrong. But that he's going to Leverkusen, but I can't see him turning down Champions League football. David, only way we'll get rid of Ings is if we keep him, give him free with Downs. Personally, I'm a Downs in. I like to keep Downs. I've got a feeling that Downs may be a player that will go. Freedom. Ward-Prowse squad player for me, still has more to offer though. I still think he's got a lot to offer, but I'm not so sure if he'll be a regular starter, to be quite honest with you. L&D, I think Downs should be given a chance under Lopetegui. Yeah, possibly. Kalispera to you, Fretakis. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Barry, cheers. Everyone saying hello to each other. Who else have we got here? 6x9, Danny, good evening to you. If we signed a Flynn's down type player, would we be pleased? So why not keep him? Yeah, good point. But I think the players that apparently we have an interest in, Alex Garcia is quality. We also Fofana, from Monaco, who's not going to sign a new deal there. Quality. So if we're going for players like that, if we get one of those two players, I can understand why Downs may go. I think we're looking at an up. Look, I like Downs. I think Downs is decent. I think he does deserve a chance. Many fans are suggesting that he's really championship level only. If he goes to Southampton, we'll find out next season whether he's championship level or better, because they'll be playing in the Premier League. Gary, good evening to you. It's really hard for me to get excited about new players. I've no idea how Lopetegui plays, so I have no idea what kind of player fits his style. Time will tell, I reckon. I did that a few weeks back, Gary. I'm happy to do it again, though. He plays a 4-3-3 mid-block formation. He likes to press. He likes his, as someone has just said, he likes his right backs to venture forward, get crosses in, etc. And when they do that, the holding midfielder sort of drops in to become a third, almost like a three at the back. In order to sort of make sure that we've got our defensive qualities in place. I can see Alvarez doing that. Alvarez has played as centre-back for his club and country. Who else have we got here? Amaret. I'd rather a midfielder who is better on the ball than Souček. Downs is better in my opinion. So, yeah, we'd rather him come back and sell Souček. Ryan, Garino, Jinx is massive throwback to the old days. Yes, they're the main ones. Glad to see Jinx back. I didn't understand. So you're talking to Garino. Victor, I can see Souček being sold. Lopetegui likes possession-based football. Souček won't fit into that. Good point. Sean, the problem with Cornet is shite. I don't know, Sean. I think the problem with Cornet has been the injury that has held him back. Let's see if we keep him or not. Gary, I think Souček still has his uses. I don't think him staying would be the end of the world. Backup. But like I said, when it comes to players, which of these players, if they stay, Souček, Ward-Prowse, even Antonio, which of them would be happy to be a backup? I don't think many of them would. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Kenneth. Would you take Gabriel Barbosa as Steidten in Brazil? No, to be quite honest. We've been linked to so. How old is Barbosa now? I don't know. No, no is the answer. I think there was once upon a time that we were linked to Barbosa. I don't think he's necessarily. Here we go. Gabriel Barbosa in the process of appealing an 18-month, maybe 2-year ban. I didn't know that. Who else have we got? Evening Obsidian, I hope you're well. Not a lot, to be quite honest with you. You know me, I just waffle on and on and on. James, what do we all think our end-of-season target should be? Definitely European football for 25-26. For me, I think it's got to be whether we get into European football by winning a trophy, a domestic cup, or whether we get into European football through our league status. Excuse me. I think that's got to be what we're after, surely. How far behind am I? Not far. Usual. If Paquetá played for anyone else, he'd be guilty, but he plays for West Ham, so he's 100% innocent. Garino, Mendy had serious accusations against him. He was cleared, but before that, Man City terminated his contract. Mendy sued them for loss of earnings. Yeah, I don't think we would terminate Paquetá's contract before the hearing. If he gets found guilty, then yes, there's a possibility that we would terminate his contract. There's a possibility we could even sue Paquetá. Trudge, a good manager says in Paquetá's ear, make the most of your final season. Oh, dear. Let's scroll down. Mark, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I'm surprised by the betting with Paquetá, as the bets apparently were equivalent to 5 or 6 quid and total payout were 100 grand, which is only 2 weeks' wages. I can't believe... See, let's not confuse things. Maybe you're not confusing it, Mark, but it didn't. This money didn't go in Paquetá's pocket. This is people who were putting bets on Paquetá, doing certain, getting yellow cards in a game. Apparently, there was numbers, something like 60 odd people who did it in the vicinity of Paquetá Island, which is why it's all looking a little bit dodgy. Funky T. I wouldn't mind Zaha in a West Ham shirt. He's feisty and knows where the goal is. Talked about Zaha last week. That's all gone quiet as well. But that doesn't mean that that's not a possibility. I probably like Zaha. The thing with Zaha is he's 31 years of age, 31, 32 years of age. We need to bring that average age of the squad down. Having said that, he could still, do a job, for a season or so. Troj, on Morodian and Bruno and the 6'8" keeper, count me in. More Giants, please. 6'9". What about Vangelis Pavlidis of AZ up top at West Ham? Big geezer, proper striker, scores for fun. Honestly, mate, I don't know. When we played out, I didn't see much in him. I don't know. I think, I didn't see anything in him that made me go, wow, he's the sort of player that we should be chasing, to be honest with you. David, grew up in Dagenham. Lots of my mates were tight with well-known players. We all got the heads up on certain topics, and there was more than 60 bets put on just from one pub. He lives on an island. Beats, Garino, that's a shame. Option could have helped the numbers. He played for my team here. Hart says nowhere near good enough to play in the Premier League. I don't know who you're on about, Garino, but yeah. No thanks to Tammy. No thanks to Abrahams. No to Tammy. Wouldn't have Abrahams. Garino, Guilherme, Silva, Garcia, Bruno, and Morodian, Fofana. Fofana sounds like it's either got to be Fofana or it's got to be Garcia, hasn't it? But I don't think we'll get both. Can we attract either of them? They're going to be looking probably. They're the sort of players that are likely to be looking for, European football, Champions League football. Omorodian, Bruno, Silva, Guilherme probably won't. I said this earlier in the show. They're probably not at the stage that they'll be looking for European football at this stage. But the likes of Garcia and Fofana probably would be. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Hamret. Emerson can't really complain. He plays every game when fit and not suspended. Compare that to when he was at the Rent Boys. I don't know what he's unhappy about. I think maybe because he's such good mates with Paquetá. If Paquetá goes for one reason or another, would that put him off his game? I don't know. Garino. ITK latest. Omorodian is on the radar, but offer decline. Not looking like we'll revisit. Exploring other options. We'll post when something develops. But see, sometimes I look at some stories and I go, I don't know about this one. And that's why I didn't go with the Omorodian story. I didn't think it would be a goer. James, Alvarez played back against Brazil last weekend and Paquetá came on as a 60-minute sub. Who else we got? Lee, I still enjoy. Thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated. Lee, I think challenge for the top six. If we got close last season with Moyes, why not? Absolutely. Tony, would have made a lot of money from City for Paquetá. Would have done. And I know there's a lot of talk about now that we're not selling Paquetá, it looks like we're going to end up selling either Bowen or Kudus. Not going to happen. Not in this transfer window. No way. We're looking to build. We're not looking to completely dismantle the whole team. Tony, Paquetá Island sounds dodgy. Apparently it's beautiful. Beautiful little island, apparently. Sam's D Gaming, good evening to you. Sam SD Gaming, good evening to you. Is Lucas Paquetá actually banned or what yet? No, the hearing hasn't happened yet. It's been delayed. He's asked for a delay in the proceedings. So nothing is happening just yet. Mark, I realise that, mate, but looking at him, match fixing, so can't see him fixing games for people, only putting that small amount on it. Yeah, I get that. But to them, that money is probably worth an awful lot. Sean, if we get Tar and Pavlidis, would have John and Vangelis. Boom, boom. Good evening to you, James. I hope you're well, mates. David, 3,000 population on Paquetá Island. Only 60 bets put on. Don't seem a lot. I think it's it's like they set up accounts on Betway at certain times, put all the bets on the same game for the same player to get a yellow card. I don't know, I'm a bit worried about it, to be honest. Michael, out of context, did you see Zuma's middle name is Happy? Yes, knew that. Andrew, Gimenez of Feyenoord would be brilliant, but I think he's got big clubs after him now. Baza, good evening to you. What would you do with the crop of youngsters we have coming through? New manager not got the best record of bringing youngsters through. Well, no, I don't know if that's so true, to be honest with you. We talked about this earlier on, mate. You know, he managed the under-19 Spanish squad and the under-21 Spanish squad. If you look at the team that he had at Sevilla, he had quite a number of young players. I talked about that a few weeks ago. Some of them have gone on to bigger clubs, etc. So I'm not so sure. I think, and as I've said, as I always keep saying, I do think that if you are good enough, you will play. I don't even think the player that we've just signed, Guilherme, even though I don't think even he will get a lot of game time. He'll get game time, but I don't think he'll be a starter or anything like that. 6 times 9. Pavlidis scored 60 goals under 100 games. With respect, you're only talking about the game he played against West Ham. How many strikers have got that prolific? Fair enough. That's a good point, but what about the league he's playing in? I mean, do you think he can convert that to the Premier League? I could be wrong. Could be totally wrong there. I would take Eze or Elise from Palace. Who wouldn't? But there's no way we're going to get either of them for the little money that we've got to spend. Michael, betting companies cry when they lose money, but are willing to skimp people week in, week out. Of course they are. That's how they make their money. I'm up to the end. An hour and 34, an hour and 35. Gonna have to call it a day there. Look, people, just to recap for anyone that came in late. No one said spliff, Danny boy. Just to recap for those who came in late. So what did we talk about today? Talked about the season tickets, 91.5% renewals, 4,000 season ticket holders did not renew. Talked about, the possibility of, the fact that concession tickets have been taken away from categories 1 to 4. Could that be a reason why season ticket holders have not renewed? Don't know. Ticketmaster, as I said, 500 million data breaches happened last week or the week before, but we've been told that West Ham United and various other companies that use Ticketmaster in the UK have not been affected. LLDC are downsizing, and there's quite a possibility that West Ham United could work with the Mayor of London to potentially take over the operational running of the stadium. Karen Brady is still looking for investors. She hasn't had much luck yet. And we talked about internationals, Antonio and various other players have been on international duty. We've said a very big farewell to Angelo Ogbonna, and it looks like potentially Ben Johnson might be staying. And talked about quite a few of the subs. Guilherme is here. He'll be unveiled probably the latest on Wednesday. Vitao, Nottingham Forest are after him, making a late bid. But let's see what happens here. Either Vitao or Bruno could still be on the cards for West Ham. Otherwise, we're interested in Argentine international Nuhan Perez. Youssef Nesri is chasing the dollar or whatever it is money they use out in Saudi. Jota Silva has gone missing in London. Apparently, he wants to transfer to West Ham. Tammy Abrahams, as a lot of you have said, no thanks. That's it. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your comments. Really appreciate you keeping me on my toes. Have a wonderful week. I will be back. Do look out for some transfer stories that I've been doing over the past few weeks. Normally coming out in the mornings, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. So do look out for them. Final say, if you're new to the channel, if you've enjoyed it, please do subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for all your comments. Have a wonderful week. And I will see you all very, very soon.